You've tuned into the Bellingham Podcast for the week of October 28, 2018, episode 98. From the spooky city by the Salish Sea, I am AJ Barsay.
And living life on the straight and narrow, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, AJ and I are wrapping up our Words of Note series with a word that, well, let me explain it this way. Ni muhimu kuwana Nidhamu katika maisha yako. I bet you're thinking, what the heck did he just say? Well, stick around to learn more about Nidhamu right here on the Bellingham Podcast.
What did you say?
That's what the thousands and thousands of listeners are wondering right now. Hi, AJ. How's it going?
Well, greetings, Chris. I'm going to speak to you in English.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm just fine. I was feeling a little explorative in our Words of Note series.
I see. This is going to be a nice a topper, I see.
And this is where I take things to the next level. Anyway, that sentence that I said, Ni muhimu kuwana Nidhamu katika maisha yako, that is actually Swahili for it is important to have discipline in your life.
Ah.
And of course, our word of note to cap off the series is discipline. Yes. Well, we've talked about for how many episodes now?
Quite a few.
Yes. So anyway, I Swahili has a term for discipline. It's called Nidhamu. We have a link in. Did you know, AJ? Did you know, fellow listener, that there's actually a Swahili Wikipedia?
I did not.
I found it. Got a link in the show notes.
Drink.
Cheers. That is Nidhamu is, according to the Swahili Wikipedia, a disciplined person is the person who does what needs to be done to achieve his or her goals and in society.
So it's get her done.
Yes, Larry, according to Larry the Cable Guy, if he spoke Swahili, Nidhamu.
That's good. That's better.
All right. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, we've talked a lot about discipline in not just Words of Note, but also in the PNW State of Mind and all these other series that we've done. I had to have a little bit of discipline in the Urban Hikers Grand Tour this summer.
The Grand Tour.
Yes, to be able to climb up those foothills and those huge goat type elevations. But yeah, it took a lot of gumption, and we were just like, we got to talk about discipline. This is kind of the penultimate word that we are currently working with in our lives, right? The dictionary definition for discipline is the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience.
So Chris, let me lead this off. If you had to look in the mirror, okay, every day, what are the things that you are a disciple of discipline towards?
I am very disciplined in many aspects and how I am in society. I'm a rule follower. I will see a crosswalk which has probably 6 steps for me to cross through, one of those pedestrian-friendly sidewalks in the city streets. I will wait till there's actually a green light and that white walk sign before I will proceed, even though there are no cars coming.
Good on you.
Yes. Well, I don't like getting hit by trucks, and this helps lessen my chances of that.
Or the rogue messenger bicyclist.
Yes, exactly. And so I have discipline when it comes to my choice of clothing. The wardrobe that I have is, in the quote unquote minimalist camp.
Yeah, you wear everything white, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm the white knight, yo. No, most of my wardrobe is black, and therefore by having black shirts, black t-shirts, jeans, et cetera, I'm able to be disciplined in like, today I'm going to wear this to work.
Or the black colored shirt with the black pants.
Yes. Wife, get me the car. It's black. Anyway, nonetheless. So I would say I have not gotten good at being disciplined about my diet. Yeah, I'll do it for a month because, I have incentive, but I think as an ongoing practice, that's the big thing that I'm unable to do. I used to have discipline to get into the gym to do some heavy weightlifting at least 3 times a week. And hey, when you're in your 40s and you're a family man, that don't happen much unless if other things fall by the wayside in your extensive list of obligations as the paterfamilias. So I would say that my wardrobe, my possessions, I have discipline that I'm not going to go off and do retail therapy in a lot of ways. That's something that I am training myself not to resort to and to look within and have that reflection as far as, what is going on, and try to take enough time so I lose interest in going to a store to, buy stuff. AJ, where are you exercising successful discipline in your life?
Successful discipline? I've said before, I've been on the same diet my son's on because of his allergies, which I'll come to allergies in a little bit about that. But beyond that, I don't know. I came from more of a more rigid background, just as an upbringing. So I kind of gravitate towards, if I get into something, I usually like kind of go hog wild into it. And for me, I can follow a discipline. I don't know if I'm like you. I like following the rules, like obeying laws, taking orders, and if it's given to me, I'll execute it to the best that I can. Okay, and if I fall, because I mean, here's the thing about discipline. A lot of people get down on is you get into something and you are trying your darndest, and much like you said, after 31 days, hana teriyaki.
Yeah,
and then we feel like crap. Like, here's the thing is what I want to kind of bring light to discipline isn't something that you immediately are given. You've got to practice this.
Yes.
And yes, you are going to make mistakes. There's entire programs that address that, for people where you are on the discipline of X. And in the event that you relapse or you fall, there's somebody or something that can guide you back to that path so you can get back there. I think where a lot of people lose sight of what discipline really represents is, I used to have a roommate and he was really into sports. And it was funny because like some games you win, some games you lose. Okay. Yep. And it's how you play the game. That whole saying, it was interesting. He had a different aspect. He never saw that in his life he could fail. A person only fails if they choose not to learn from their mistakes and do it again.
Yes, that's where you turn failure into a learning experience.
Well, yeah, but I mean, don't say it like that, because that's kind of like, and then buy my book. You know what I mean? Like, for me, discipline is the path that you take, your dedication towards that path, and if you make a mistake, how fast you can get back to that baseline. And for me, like whether it's dieting or exercise, I mean, since my son being born, I used to be a lot more out there. Like you just said, being the patris familia, you don't have that time unless you want to take it away from your family. And what good is that?
Well, you obviously have your priorities straight.
Right. But I think that's what but having priorities itself unto itself is a discipline.
Yep. And in most cases, discipline brings stability and structure. Because growing up in a rigid, I believe you said, I had a very rigid upbringing as well. I think we have that in common. There was a lot of structure in our lives, and where those guardrails that are on the bowling lane, that the ball won't go into the gutter, those were put on for me, and I wasn't allowed to deviate from that path. Due to various reasons. But to have that kind of structure gives a little bit of freedom, because now I know that I have this choice to make. This is what I'm doing. It occurs a lot as I'm on my morning commute. To deviate from the disciplined approach that I have to my morning commute is a temptation every day, because on my morning commute, I will pass 1, 2, maybe 3 donut shops in the morning. And if I decide to take a minute and go into that donut shop and grab myself a breakfast item, that would take away from what my goals are, or where I want, what my best self in my head would be. And I think that would be where, in the dictionary definition, using punishment to correct disobedience, I'm the biggest punisher of myself internally. And basically, I won't be stopping at the donut shop on my commute to work, because in my mind view, it's not an option. I can't be sad about it, and I'll just continue on my way to work. And I won't die from not getting that donut in the morning. Right. Or that $5, 5-adjective cup of coffee in some cases. It'll just be living without. Right. And living without is a really good way to gain steps towards having a disciplined life, because you don't have that comfort, that easy path. And in a lot of cases, that easy path can arrive at a cost. Right. But what doesn't arrive at a cost
is you might be listening to us on that morning commute on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Low discipline power.
Community discipline radio here in the heart of the city of subdued excitement.
Speaking of discipline, how many episodes have we done with our wonderful low power radio station here? We have a disciplined effort.
Yeah, we do.
To get a 30-minute episode, give or take like 30 seconds due to your awesome editing. We're pretty disciplined in pumping out a weekly show, and kudos for that. And so that's something to be, that we share in common.
But no, so getting back onto your whole the whole mentality of discipline, like when it comes to the big D word, okay, there's a lot of negative connotation, usually because, like you said, there's usually the brutality part of it that comes from the word discipline. However, like Chris and I just said, there are some. It's interesting. By having restrictions, you have more freedom, and that's a hard thing for people to kind of see. You look at it as, like you said, in your commute in the morning, that $5 cup of coffee or that GDM donuts. Okay, right?
I was wondering where you go with that.
Oh, I heard that recently. Every culture has a GDM. What? A grease delivery mechanism.
That's
Got
right.
it.
Yes.
Okay. Here's the other thing that discipline also brings, and that is when you have a goal. Discipline is the straightest route to getting and achieving that goal. The further that you deviate, or the further that you let things slide, the further away you will get to that goal. So, for instance, you said the $5 cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So, coffee is a weakness for me. However, I make it at home. One, because it's tasty, but two, because of the cashola. That is a bad habit that some people do get into, where it is part of their routine, and then they just make a justification. I think the contrary to discipline, like the Jekyll to Hyde, is just that justification. You can justify anything. I have Amazon Prime. I'm paying $100 a year for Amazon Prime. Oh, there's this one thing I really want, and I want it in 2-day shipping. Oh, I'll just buy it right now. As opposed to really asking yourself, do I really need that, whatever that $5 thing is?
Right.
But we justify it. So if you feel like you're looking at your life and you're going, you're not happy, or you feel like you're losing time or losing sleep or not losing enough weight or whatever it is, I say don't look at just, how do I get on the straight and narrow? Look at yourself and really ask yourself, what am I justifying this thing for? Mm-hmm. And I think you do a lot of that with like your minimalism practice, right? Like you look at something, does it bring you joy?
Yes, absolutely.
And
where there are people that, I'm not naming names or anything there, but some people in our beautiful town have over 40 pairs of shoes. I'm not naming names, but that is a choice in which that is a luxury that we get to have. Maybe in some cases you've had a tough experience either at work or in family life or elsewhere. How are you going to care for yourself, the self-care? I'm going to go buy me a pair of shoes because that will make me feel better. It takes discipline to go, nope, I'm going to save that money, kind of like what you're doing with the coffee or the drive-through. And that is a concerted effort to try and have self-restraint. Now, I was doing a little bit of additional research as because I like being prepared for a show. I don't want to be going, that's a good topic. All right, moving on. That's not my style. There's two types of discipline that we have. There's internal discipline and external discipline. All right. Now, internal discipline is kind of, I think, what we are talking about. It's a lot of self-restraint. It's the ability for us to have self-restraint allows us to behave in a consistently stringent manner. Controlled, kind of like the secure and stable environment. But as we've talked about, that power, there's power that comes from that and inner strength. The more that we refine ourselves to say, I'm not going to go to that microbrewery on a Thursday evening. I'm going to do this instead. It doesn't have to be stay at home. I'm going to go to this place instead.
Right.
Could be a lot less money to spend. Could be a heck of a lot less money depending if you are driving home in a certain different state of mind. This is a way to gain inner strength should you have addictions or temptations or other areas that may need improvement or addressing inside of you. The other type of discipline is external discipline. And that's like societal norms, kind of like crossing the street.
Right.
And in some cases,
not speeding, Chris?
Not speeding, right. But also...
Hi, Washington State Patrol.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hello again. But I see this a lot, and I've had a tough time with this one being a rule follower. If you're in the left lane in a 2-lane road and you happen to see a right lane closing, a right lane merging into one, there are still cars that will not get in line. There are still drivers. We don't have
not the cars. Yeah, the cars don't do it. The
It's
driver does.
We have drivers that will not get in line and just wait, go along in the line. They will wait to the last bitter moment and try to squeeze in because even though that's not against the law, that's kind of the choice that they're taking. Society says, get in line.
Yeah.
And a lot of people going, no,
right.
I'm going to do my thing. You're going to get behind me, infidel. And that is something that is an external discipline that is lacking for people.
Right.
I think I may have turned that into a little bit of a soapbox thing.
That's okay.
All right. Thank you.
No, no, actually, it's funny that you bring up merging in traffic because I love using the road rules because it's something that we have created and adopted, subscribe to, prescribe to, and persecute for. And it's funny that you bring up merging early versus merging late. There is a book, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Drink.
Called Traffic.
Oh.
I'll lend you a copy if you want.
I could probably use that.
It shows the psychology, and it's interesting, not to give you any spoilers, it's an interesting read because most motorcyclists kind of find out about this book and start reading it because it helps as a motorcyclist knowing the psychology of the people, or as we like to say, the idiots behind the wheel of four wheels.
Right.
And understanding why that comes about. It's interesting that like in your younger days, or most people in their younger days will be really timid and want to stay to the rules. Yet when you're older, you're the, jack
don't care,
kind of cuts in late. And merging late, it's actually a psychology that kind of developmentally happens. It's called Traffic is the name of the book. It's also on audio books also. But anyway, take a look at that. If getting back to the discipline side of the external side, here's the other thing that I find interesting about discipline, both internal and external, if I could bridge these two, is if you are a person who leads a disciplined life, whether you are of a faith like a monk, right? You live an ascetic life, or you're a minimalist and you live that life, or you're a tiny home owner and you live. Have you ever noticed that people try to encroach in on that and try to, for instance, minimalism? Have you ever had somebody just look at Chris, why give up all these things? You should do this instead.
What are you thinking? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you taking advantage of all the great deals that are out there on the weekends?
You're a tech. You know all the deals.
Why don't you have multiple computers and multiple everything for your professional life? And I go, I did that one time. And I found that I had a tremendous amount of angst as I'm looking at drawers full of stuff and desks full of stuff. I find a clean desk. You've seen these kind in an all-white room with like a little bit of a little succulent plant and one little computer, a mouse, a keyboard, all wireless, of course, naturally, and nothing else, and maybe a chair that costs $2,000
and a pen
and one pen. And that I find to be beautiful because it's like, there's such less there. And I just realized, do I really need all this additional stuff? Well, I back up what I need, and then I eliminate the rest. And at this point, I really don't need a whole lot. And I answer those people that love surrounding themselves with stuff. I used to be there, and I used to have a room that I would close the door whenever guests would arrive. It was the third bedroom in my house when I lived by myself, and it was just a clutter fest, and I was embarrassed of it. And that was part of the impetus or the genesis of my path on that way. And I eventually gained the discipline to be able to take a box full of stuff to the dump every day, or to a thrift store to donate, or to a worthy nonprofit to pass it along.
Right.
And so that's where it's like, all right, Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m., here we go.
But I mean, maybe it's maybe I'm the oddball out, but like whenever I tell somebody, like my wife and I practice minimalism, okay, or we're saving up or whatever, why is it that maybe I'm just weird, but why is it that people, I don't know, either are put off or feel that you're a kooky person if you lead a disciplined lifestyle?
I would say to that, there are people who lead a very disciplined life who have my utmost admiration.
Sure.
And those folks are serving our country.
Yeah.
Those folks are living without a lot. And they have a very regimented life. That is something that I salute thee. If you can have this kind of structured life where you're up at 4:30,
whether you like it or not,
you don't have the decision otherwise, and you're doing calisthenics or you're going for that run in 37-degree weather, and you are eating your grits, and you are doing your morning meals, and you're very limited and not enjoying the first world luxuries that we get to enjoy. I have admiration for that. And that is something that I would say, it's not just me. I actually aspire to be that kind of disciplined in my life where I'm able to get up at crack 30 to be able to go do something to make my body better. Are we going to get the explicit tag on our show for what I said?
Well, if everybody's hearing this and they don't hear something, I probably already edited it out. So
okay, sounds good. All right, cool. I didn't swear, Mom. All right. Anyway, it was just
sorry, Chris's mom.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that for people who who don't understand, people fear or have aversions to things they don't understand. Well, that's totally cool. I think a lot of our listeners who know us fairly well after 98 episodes, woohoo! And they kind of know that if we are consumerists, this may not be something that we ascribe to. Opinions may vary,
right?
And in all cases, when someone does ask me in social gatherings about why do you wear the same thing over and over again, I go, less that I have to worry about in the morning when I'm trying to decide what to wear, and I don't live with them. My wife knows that I ascribe to being a minimalist in lifestyle, and she loves me for it. And I love her for accepting me as I. Speaking of the family thing, one thing about discipline that I have found that I'm able to do in the summer when we actually had sun at 6 a.m., my wife would get up in the morning and walk our dog, do the little morning business run. Not around the neighborhood.
With the dog's morning business. Let me clarify.
The dog's business. Exactly. So anyway, we're still a clean show. We're working on it. Anyway, but as the weather has turned colder and the weather gets darker, around 6 a.m., I have attempted to get disciplined enough to say, wifey, I got the dog walk in the morning. And that means that I got to get up earlier than I normally would, get my shower, do my morning routine, get myself ready. Oh, by the way, I pop in an AirPod, a wireless ear thing, and I got our dog on our leash, and I'm listening to some morning podcasts, having someone talk to me in the dark as I'm walking around the neighborhood, waiting for our dog to do their business. That's a form of discipline that can be a gift. And if you are going to be disciplined enough to say, you know what, honey, for the next week, that was me hitting the table, folks. For the next week, I'm going to cook dinner after week. That means you have to adjust your schedule. You have to make sacrifices. You have to tell yourself, I did this. Now I got to walk it out. You're doing this disciplined effort as a gift. And that is something wouldn't that be something this holiday season? Instead of getting a gift card to your favorite big box retail store, that you'd be like, I offer you 2 weeks. This card is good for 2 weeks of fill in the blank love language for someone you love.
That's cool.
Now that's a Christmas gift.
So to put a bow tie on it, I think what if you haven't gathered on this episode, what Chris and I are trying to really lean towards is that discipline isn't something that should be feared or fraught, or if you see somebody leading a disciplined life, whether they're giving up drinking, not because they have a problem, but maybe they don't want that in their life, or they're giving up a specific food. Maybe they're going on to a very regimented diet, vegan, vegetarianism, or whatever. Instead of looking down upon it, ask why, as an inquisitive thing, but ask yourself, the person who's on that disciplined life track, what gift are they giving back to themselves by doing that? Because realistically, whether you practice minimalism or anything, you're doing it for a reason. And instead of attacking somebody's reason, find out why. And maybe in listening to their story, maybe you could ask yourself, your own self, where are you lacking in discipline in your life? Whether it's finances or imbibing or
laziness,
sloth,
or
all
procrastination.
The 7 deadly sins.
Yes,
We should call this the 7 deadly sins episode.
That's a great miniseries that we could think about. Anyway, by doing
the lightning bolt. We'll talk off
the mic about that. Yeah, no. As far as getting to know someone, asking them about why they're doing something. Oh, guess what? You get a little bit of a glimpse inside that person's story. I've never met a person that doesn't have an interesting story once you take the time to listen without judgment. And that could be a gift in itself as opposed to antagonizing, because it doesn't work in your mental paradigm. So I encourage you, as you're thinking about discipline, where are you able to find ways to be able to practice this habit? And the main thing is you can't bat 1,000. Michael Jordan didn't hit all of his shots. Wayne Gretzky from the 80s, he was a hockey player, kids, did not make all of his shots, but they were the best in their game. You got to be able to allow yourself the ability to not reach the target and to keep trying, because that's what a disciplined approach to life is all about. Especially as we approach Halloween this week with all the kids getting the candy, it's going to be a real disciplined attempt for the parents out there, if you know what I'm saying, to not grab a couple of those fun-size treats and gorge yourself on some calorie, sugar-inducing candies.
So that's a really good segue, Chris.
Really?
Because I have something for Halloween, because it does fall into a discipline that I've talked about for the last 4 months, okay? With the fact that I have a child who has allergies. Mm-hmm. Trick-or-treating really does not apply to him because of his allergies. I can tell you straight up, 95% of the candy that is out there, he can't have, because it will set off what he's got going on in his body.
I'm very sad to hear that.
There is a movement, though, to help address that. It's called the teal pumpkin. Oh. I got to credit my wife for finding out about this. Major mom points.
Yes.
You can take a look. I'll have a link in the show notes.
Drink. And
the teal pumpkin is for there's this flyer that you can print out and put on your door, or I think you can even make your light bulb, because normally when you have trick-or-treaters, you put your light on and that says, hey, come and trick-or-treat. We're a trick-or-treat house, right? The teal pumpkin movement is about providing kids other options outside of just candy and sweets, specifically to address the growing concern of kiddos having allergies. So if that appeals to you, and it appeals to my wife and I, our house is going to be part of the Teal Pumpkin Project, because that is part of, like I've said for, I don't know how many episodes, I'm trying to be more akin to what my son has to deal with.
Absolutely.
So,
and I bet that you could take one of your LifeX bulbs, those smart bulbs, and turn it teal on your outside one.
I might even put like what the LifeX code is for teal in the show link. I might look that up.
Could
That's
be cool.
Really kind of cool.
That could be cool. All right, good enough. Let's wrap this thing up.
That wraps it up for this 98th edition of
Oh my goodness, 98.
98! You know where to find us in all of the places, and on Camry 102.3 FM.
Low power.
Community radio here in the heart of the city of subdued excitement. Coming up, we have our 99th and 100th episode. I'm going to take the next 45 seconds to kind of give everybody a little bit of a teaser of what's coming up. 99, Chris and I go back to our roots, and if you've followed us since episode 1, you know that we used to do the show a lot more out and about in our city of subdued excitement.
Yep.
We're hitting the town.
We're going old school.
We're going old school. And then number 100, we have a very, and I mean very, special guest who's going to be the sole source interview for 100 to commemorate 100 episodes of Chris and I being on the mic and allowing us to take 30 minutes of your time every week to just talk about what we like to talk about.
And that is going to be worth a listen.
Yep. So that wraps it up for this edition of the Bellingham Podcast. I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll see you for episode 99 in 1 week.
5 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 5 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock.